Hi, how's it going? Today, we're going to be talking about some ways to make your drone footage better. We're here, ta-da! If you can see out the window. Probably not, it's really freaking bright. It's windy out here. Alright. Well, it's a little windy, so I hope you can hear me. The drone is ready. I'm going to set it down and we're going to take off. Obviously, you want to make sure you're following all the rules. You don't want to fly it over people, over places you're not supposed to. You got to be careful, be safe. So the number one thing you want to do when you're flying is down here in this corner, you want to switch it to manual instead of auto. But this, you have your little meter down here. It shows you where you're at. We're a little overexposed, but the goal is you want to keep your ISO as low as you can so you can keep noise out of your image, and then you want to keep your shutter, usually the 180 rule. So if we're filming at 24 frames or 30 frames like we are now, we want to have it at 1/60 versus 24, 1/48, or 1/50, whichever is the closest. It gives you more of a cinematic look. Hey, editing Cody here. I wanted to clarify a few things. I feel like it wasn't super clear whenever I was flying the drone and talking. Not the greatest multitasker, but the 180 rule is basically you take your frame rate, whatever you're shooting at, let's say 24 frames for this example, and we're going to double that, and that's going to be our shutter speed. So if it's 24 frames, we're going to go with 48, 1/48 for our shutter speed, and that's going to give a nice motion blur effect and make it look more cinematic than using a higher frame rate or a lower frame rate. And if we're going to shoot at 30 frames per second, it'll be 1/60, 60 frames, 1/120, and even 120 frames per second. Let's say we're shooting slow-mo, it'll be 1/240, and so on and so forth. And that's basically the 180 rule. The second tip that I'd give is to use an ND filter. And basically, the easy way to put it, an ND is like sunglasses for your camera. You can have it for a lens like this, or you can have it for a drone. Mine just clips on, there's a pack. There's also a polarizer in there, and sometimes you don't need it. Later in the evening, you probably won't need one. But usually when you're shooting during the day, you want an ND16 or maybe an ND8 in this case. I'm using an ND8 filter because we're shooting away from the sun and it's a little bit later in the evening, not as harsh, lower sun in the sky. And yeah, it helps your footage. It's a little extra. The third thing that you can do, if you get the shooting in manual down, if you get the ND filter on your camera, your footage should be looking all right. And at this point, you should be focusing on your drone movements. And in this case, you can obviously do the forward, the backward, side to side. You can even kind of go diagonal like we are here. The difference between somebody who's an amateur drone flyer versus a more advanced intermediate drone flyer is what they can do with it. A lot of times the general rule will be a shot will look good if there's juxtaposing motion. That basically just means one stick goes one way, the other stick goes the other. So let's say, put it in sport here so we can move a little faster to demonstrate. Let's say we're flying to the left. Something we can do is tilt our stick to the right. Hi, editing Cody again. I wanted to clarify on the juxtaposition movements, I guess, basically using opposite movements while flying the drone. You can use this on basically any movement you can do on the drone. So using the right stick, we're just going to go with the default set. The right stick for moving forward, backward, left, right, and the left stick for moving up, down, and then turning left and right. And you can also add the gimbal in there. Each one of these movements by themselves can be okay using the stick. Sticks together, sticks separate, the gimbal by itself, they can be fine. But what really elevates your footage and kind of sets it apart from just beginner footage, somebody who just bought a drone, is using multiple movements within a single shot. The difference from the foreground to the background can even be a juxtaposition used in your shot. So it's more overall than I was saying in the video, but I just wanted to make sure you guys got that across. Another thing you can do with a drone is With the gimbal, you can also move the gimbal up and down. And so what a lot of people do is they put the gimbal basically 90 degrees all the way down, and this is used to reveal something. So you'd fly forward and you would slowly pan the gimbal up, or tilt the gimbal up as you're getting to your spot. Slowly release, and there you go. Overall, these tips are just beginner things to help you get started and start making better footage, and we can get into some more advanced things later on, but I figured this might help. Alright, well, anyways, see you next time. But you'd use a neutral density filter basically.